You know what's stupid? The sound a broken stiletto heel makes when it snaps in a room full of music. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's this dumb, hollow crack that nobody hears except the guy who's already watching everything fall apart. Me. That guy was me. Everyone was too drunk, too distracted by overpriced drinks and Instagram angles to notice her stumble. But I saw it, because I hadn't taken my eyes off her for more than 5 seconds since we got there. Not because I'm some controlling jerk, but because I knew tonight was a test I didn't agree to take. Her name's Alora, and for the past few weeks, I'd been watching her emotionally moonwalk away from me, smiling, nodding, sleeping beside me, but always, always somewhere else. And tonight, she dressed like she was going to war, not a work event. She had that red dress I hadn't seen in years, the one she swore was too much for our anniversary last year, and heels so high I literally asked her if we were still covered by our health insurance before we left the apartment. She laughed. I didn't. So there we are, standing in a private venue lit like a scene from a music video, and every person around us is 25, gorgeous, and trying to be seen. Meanwhile, I'm pushing 38, sweating through my undershirt, holding her clutch because it clashes with the theme, and pretending I know what a micro-influencer activation booth is. Then he shows up. Griffin. Yes, Griffin. Even his name sounds like someone who smells like success and sandalwood. He's not her boss. Not officially. But he's in all the pictures. All the late-night Slack messages. All the stories that end with, I probably shouldn't be telling you this. And now he's here, walking toward us with 2 glasses of something expensive. And guess what? One of them isn't for me. I tried not to react. I really did. I even took a step back like I was giving them room to talk. But they weren't talking. They were already dancing. No music cue. No hesitation. Just this. Practiced ease like they'd done it before. That's when I said it. Quietly, with a smile so forced I thought my jaw might crack. If you dance with him again tonight, I'm leaving. She looked at me. Not with fear, not with guilt. With pity. Okay, Nathan, she said. Let's not make a scene. But she didn't say she wouldn't. She didn't say I was wrong. She didn't even look surprised. Just turned back around. And 5 minutes later, right after her heel broke, she limped right back into his arms like it was choreographed. That's when I left. But the twist? What I saw in the coat room before I walked out, that accidental glance through a cracked door, that was worse than anything that happened on the dance floor. It made me freeze. It made me sick. And it made me realize the party wasn't even the beginning. It was the cover story. And I was about to learn what had been going on beneath it all. I don't believe in fate. Never have. But that door, that damn coat room door, it wasn't fully closed. Not locked, not shut, just barely cracked. Like someone had left it that way on purpose. Like some invisible hand wanted me to see what I saw next. I was already halfway out of the venue. My heart was pounding like I'd just run a mile, but I hadn't moved more than 10 steps. I didn't want to turn around. I told myself I was done, that I'd said my line, drawn my boundary, and walked. That should have been enough. But my jacket was still inside. I'd left it on one of those stupid gold hooks next to the faux marble counter where they handed out complimentary drink tokens and overpriced cologne samples. So I turned around, weaving through sweaty bodies and too loud laughter, retracing steps I didn't want to take. That's when I noticed the door, ajar. Not enough to see through, but enough to hear something. A voice. Not hers. His. Griffin. I told you this would happen. He's too sensitive, Elle. Then silence. Muffled shuffling. Something soft brushing against fabric. I didn't want to keep listening, but my feet moved closer like they had their own agenda. I leaned just slightly, eyes adjusting to the low light filtering through the hallway. And that's when I saw it. Her hands were on his chest. Not pushing him away. Holding him there. She was laughing, but not loud like earlier. This was the private kind of laugh. The one you give when you feel safe. Or when you feel like no one else matters. His hand moved to her waist like it had every right to be there. Her heel, the broken one, was kicked off and lying by the wall, while she stood there, barefoot, her other shoe still dangling from her ankle strap like it was clinging to decency. My coat was on the hook 2 feet away. 2. I couldn't reach for it. Couldn't breathe. I felt like a ghost in my own marriage, watching my wife exist in a world that no longer had a place for me. She whispered something I couldn't hear. He leaned in. And then, her phone buzzed. The ringtone was mine. Custom. That little synth chime she said reminded her of our first apartment. The one with the drafty windows and mouse problem. The one she said felt like home even when nothing worked. She pulled back. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Not guilt. Annoyance. She didn't answer the call. Didn't even check it. Just muttered, "I'll deal with it later," and kissed him. That's when I walked away for the second time. Only this time, it wasn't because I was angry. It was because I couldn't recognize her anymore. Not the woman in the red dress. Not the one laughing barefoot in the coat room. Not the one who used to cry during commercials and wake me up because she heard a noise that turned out to be the fridge motor. This version of her? She was a stranger. I didn't go home. I didn't call her. I drove around town until the sky turned purple and the gas tank hit E. I parked at an old fast food lot we used to visit after late-night movies and sat there in silence, staring at my hands, wondering when I stopped being enough. And the worst part? I still hadn't told anyone. Not my brother. Not my coworker who always joked that marriage is just advanced emotional chess. Not even my mom, who still mailed us holiday cards addressed to my favorite team. No one knew that the team had already broken up, and one of us didn't even notice. But someone else knew. Someone who messaged me the next morning from an anonymous account. A message I wasn't ready for. Because it didn't say, "I'm sorry." It said, "I know what she's been doing. And I have proof." The message came in at 6:13 a.m. I hadn't slept. I was lying on my back on the couch, still in last night's shoes, trying to convince myself that I'd imagined it all. That maybe what I saw in that coat room was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was a friendly hug. Maybe her heel had really broken and he was just helping her stay balanced. Maybe, God, I hated how desperate I sounded, even in my own head. But then my phone buzzed again. No contact name. No profile photo. Just a username, TruthMirror03. The message read, "Check your wife's work calendar. Go back 3 weeks. Hilton Grand, room 412. I sat up like I'd been punched in the stomach. Was this a joke? A prank? Some sleazy marketing bot trying to sell me spyware? I almost ignored it. Almost. But something about the wording, it didn't sound like someone phishing. It sounded like someone certain. I clicked on the profile. Nothing. No followers. No posts. Just a brand new account created the night before. I stared at the message again. 3 weeks ago. Hilton Grand. Room 412. She had said she was in Portland for a brand launch that weekend. She'd even brought back a keychain from the airport and a promotional hoodie I knew she'd never wear. I told myself not to do it. But I opened her laptop anyway. It wasn't locked. She always trusted me. That irony stung. I clicked into her work email. No luck. Too sterile, too carefully curated. But when I opened the calendar app, something shifted. There was an event logged on the Friday of her Portland trip. Just one word in the title. Sync. No address, no call-in link, just a time, 8 p.m. Who schedules a work sync at 8 p.m. on a Friday? I clicked it. My jaw clenched. In the notes section, there was a line that made my blood run cold. Don't forget room 412. No paper trail. I dropped the laptop. I didn't even know what to feel. Rage? Shock? Some twisted relief that I wasn't just paranoid. But mostly, I felt stupid. Like comically stupid. I had made her coffee at 6 a.m. before that trip. Drove her to the airport. Kissed her on the forehead and told her to crush it. And while I sat home binging documentaries and ordering takeout, she was in room 412, syncing God knows what with someone else. I picked the laptop back up and went full detective mode. I shouldn't have. I knew it would only hurt more. But I couldn't stop. Search history, wiped. Downloads, empty. Trash folder, cleared. But Chrome had one weakness, autofill. I typed the letter H into the address bar. The first result? Hilton.com/booking/room 412 Grand. My heart stopped. I clicked it, but it was expired. Redirected. Gone. But the ghost was there. Just enough of a fingerprint to tell me it had happened. I stood up, pacing in small circles in our apartment, the silence louder than any argument. I kept looking at the framed pictures. Our trip to the mountains, her goofy grin in that oversized scarf, the post-it she wrote me 2 years ago that said, "You make the world softer." I had it stuck to the fridge like a museum artifact. What a joke. What was worse? I still hadn't told her I knew. She came home 2 hours later, still in last night's makeup. Said she stayed at her coworker Renee's place because she got too tipsy to drive. She kissed my cheek like nothing had happened, tossed her purse on the counter, and said, "Let's order breakfast." My head is pounding. I stared at her like I was seeing a stranger walk through my door wearing my wife's skin. She didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't care. Either way, I said nothing. Because if this was a game, I wasn't going to fold just yet. No, I was going to see how far it went. How long she'd keep lying. And who else already knew? Because if some random account on the internet could see through her, what else was I about to find? I never replied to the anonymous message. Not at first. I thought maybe it would stop. That maybe it was some glitch in the universe, some cruel cosmic prank to punish me for being so naive. But 2 nights later, at exactly 11:41 p.m., another message arrived. This time it wasn't text. It was a photo, grainy, taken from what looked like a hotel hallway camera, the kind that's slightly tilted, time-stamped, probably never meant to be seen by guests. In the image, Alora was standing outside a hotel room door. Room 412. Dressed in the same red coat she wore the morning she told me she was catching an early flight. She was kissing someone. Not Griffin. A different man. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't rage. Not this time. It was disorientation, like the floor had disappeared beneath me. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. His face wasn't completely visible, just the curve of his jawline and part of a neck tattoo I couldn't fully read. Who the hell was this? I stared at the image for 10 minutes before typing. Who are you? No reply. Not for hours. Then, at 3:08 a.m. Meet me tomorrow. 4 p.m. Lakeview Library. Back table near the archives. I stared at the message like it was radioactive. I didn't sleep. I didn't tell Alora. That morning she made eggs and said, "We should plan a trip soon. Just us." She even smiled the way she used to, as if she hadn't shattered me 2 nights ago in a red coat with a man who wasn't Griffin, wasn't me, and sure as hell wasn't part of any marriage she claimed to respect. When I arrived at Lakeview Library, I felt like a man walking into a spy novel. The back section was almost completely empty. Just the scent of old books and forgotten air vents humming like anxious whispers. I waited, and then someone sat across from me. He was younger than I expected. Early 20s. Fidgety. Hoodie, ball cap, anxious eyes. He looked like someone who'd never spoken to a stranger without checking the exits first. "You're Nathan?" he asked. I nodded. He pulled out a small flash drive, dropped it on the table like it was ticking. "I don't need money," he said. "I just hate being used." I didn't know she was married. Not at first. My stomach twisted. "You're the guy from the photo?" He shook his head. "No, I'm one of them. There are more." I blinked. "More?" He nodded, rubbing his temple. "I was with her for 6 months. Off and on. Met her through an app. She used a different name. Said she was single. Said she worked in tech consulting. I figured it out when she slipped up and mentioned your apartment layout, but called it her old place. I Googled the address. Found your wedding registry. Everything clicked. I just sat there. Numb. Hollow. Static in my ears. He slid the flash drive toward me. "She's been using fake profiles. I've got screenshots. DMs, call logs. One guy flew in from Florida last month. He thought he was moving in with her." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. It was like my body had disconnected from my brain and my thoughts were screaming behind thick glass. "Why are you helping me?" I finally whispered. He shrugged. "Because she doesn't stop. And because I was dumb enough to believe I mattered." There was nothing to say after that. I left the library with the drive in my pocket and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. I drove to the edge of the city, parked in an empty lot behind an abandoned car wash, and plugged the drive into my laptop. And there it was. A folder titled, Alora Ghost Accounts. Inside were screenshots of dating app chats, photos taken in restaurants, hotel bookings, usernames, even short voice memos. Some were months old. Others dated as far back as 2 years. 2 years. That meant while I was planning our 3rd anniversary trip, she was already spiraling. While I bought her that pendant necklace she cried over, she had someone else flying in. While I blamed myself for our distance, convinced I was boring, too clingy, too safe, she was already living a second life behind my back. I sat there for hours, listening, reading, looping the evidence like I could somehow find a version of events where I wasn't the biggest idiot alive. But no matter how I spun it, the conclusion was always the same. My wife was a stranger, and she was a damn good liar. But she'd made one mistake. One account she reused by accident. One shared email across 2 fake identities. It was buried deep in the files. But I found it, and when I searched it, It led me straight to someone I did recognize. Griffin, the man I thought was her biggest secret, was actually covering for someone worse. When I searched the email on that reused ghost account, I didn't expect it to lead anywhere. Honestly, I thought it would just bounce back or lead to some burner inbox long since deleted. But to my surprise, it wasn't hidden. It was tied to a public Trello board. Yes, Trello, a project management site. Of all places. And this wasn't a work board. This was a personal planning hub. Notes, dates, color-coded cards, all tied to the same user alias, Ashley_media liaison. And guess who was listed under the shared access section? Griffin. My breath caught in my throat. I clicked into the board. There were 3 columns, current, past, and blocked. Each one had a string of cards with first names, photos, snippets of conversations, a couple of phone numbers, and even entries like allergic to almonds or prefers to meet in public. It was organized, detailed, cold. I found mine, Nathan W., buried 3 columns back and blocked, marked with a yellow tag that read, "Too emotionally dependent. Avoid future contact." I felt sick. I wasn't just a husband. I was a phase, a file, a box checked. Someone she had assessed, manipulated, and filed away once I stopped being useful. But Griffin, he wasn't on any of the cards, not even in the planning notes, which meant he wasn't a target. He was a collaborator, a fixer, a cleaner, someone helping her maintain the illusion. I started combing deeper. I tracked the Trello board's creation date, and then searched for matching timestamps in her old photos, emails, anything. There was a 2-month overlap where she started syncing her life with this Ashley persona and still slept beside me in bed like nothing had changed. She wasn't just cheating. She was living dual lives, one carefully curated for me, the other a performance art piece with rotating male leads. She hadn't made a mistake. She had built an infrastructure for betrayal. I called the guy from the library again, the one who gave me the flash drive. His name was Jonah. I asked him if he'd heard of Griffin. He went quiet for a long moment before answering. "Yeah, that's the guy who messaged me when I started asking questions. Told me to back off. Said she had mental health issues and was trying to reset her boundaries. Said I was being predatory." My heart sank. "Did you believe him?" Jonah laughed bitterly. "I did. For a while. Until I found out he's done the same thing to other guys she dropped." So that was it. That was Griffin's role. Not the affair. Not the lover. The handler. The guy who told all the discarded men that they were the problem, that they were overreacting, gaslighting them into silence while Alora moved on to her next project. And I had almost thanked him that night at the party. I had shaken his hand. I looked at my phone and scrolled through the list of her contacts. There were so many numbers that meant nothing to me. Many saved under initials. Some just emojis. And then one stuck out. Monica, Wellness. I didn't remember her ever mentioning a Monica. When I dialed the number, it rang twice before going to voicemail. The recording wasn't professional. It was clipped and distracted. "Hey, this is Monica. Text me if it's about scheduling or boundaries. I don't check this much. Bye." Scheduling or boundaries. That phrase echoed what Jonah said Griffin had told him. I sent a text. "Hi, Monica. I think we've both been lied to. About Alora." No reply. At least not immediately. But 30 minutes later, I got a response. "You're the husband." I froze. She already knew who I was. Before I could type anything back, 3 more messages arrived in rapid succession. "You're not the first to contact me. She used me too. Meet me. I can show you what she did to her ex before you." Before me? I thought I had the whole picture. But I hadn't even seen the beginning. And now I was about to. I met Monica 2 days later at a juice cafe that reeked of overpriced kale and self-delusion. She sat at the far corner, no makeup, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept well in a year. When I walked in, she didn't wave. She just nodded toward the chair across from her, like we were co-conspirators meeting under surveillance. "You look like someone told you Santa isn't real," she said flatly. I feel like someone ripped the whole North Pole out of my chest. I muttered. She slid a phone across the table. The screen was already unlocked. A video paused at the 10-second mark. "This is from before you," she said. "Before she married you. Before the Alora you knew even existed." I tapped play. The video showed a man, mid-30s, tall, pale, slightly balding, standing in a dimly lit apartment. He was filming himself. "I don't know if this is going to help anyone," he said. "But if something happens to me, Someone needs to know she's not who she says she is. He looked exhausted. Not physically, spiritually. Like someone who had fought a war no one believed was real. She lied about everything. Her name, her past, her family. I found 2 passports, 2 phones. When I asked, she said they were for work. Then she disappeared for a week. When she came back, she acted like I was the one losing it. The video cut off. Monica said nothing, just waited for me to speak. Who was he? I asked. Landon, she said. He dated her for 8 months. They were living together by month 4. She told him she wanted to elope. Said marriage was just paperwork. Then one day, poof, gone. She ghosted him completely. Deleted her socials. Changed numbers. I was his therapist back then. My eyes widened. You're not just some friend? She shook her head. I was bound by client confidentiality. Until he died. That hit me like a truck. Wait, died. Suicide. 2 years ago. I'm not saying she caused it directly, but she contributed. She gaslit him into believing he was dangerous, obsessive, paranoid. Had him second-guessing everything. He lost his job. Stopped seeing his friends. Even his parents didn't know what was going on. By the time he left that video, it was already too late. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. I broke protocol, she said. I started looking into her after he passed. I found patterns. Overlapping aliases. She uses different names in different industries, always creative ones. Events, marketing, publishing. She's always the charismatic connector. Always the one with the crazy ex-boyfriend story. Except the exes? They're never crazy. They're just wreckage. I leaned back, dizzy. And Griffin? Her enabler, Monica replied. Or her handler. I've seen it before. Some people don't do the dirty work themselves. They outsource the cleanup. He makes sure her past stays buried. He's probably behind half the anonymous warnings sent to people like you. Meant to scare, confuse, isolate. I felt cold. My fingers went numb. She's a virus, Monica added. A system crasher. She doesn't want love. She wants control. And the moment she senses resistance, she doesn't confront it. She replaces it. I tried to laugh, but it came out broken. So what? I'm just next in the obituary line. No, she said, her voice hardening. You're the first one to dig. To connect the old with the new. She's gotten sloppy. Probably thought she'd broken you already. But you're still standing. And that scares her. I looked around the cafe, the sunlight too bright, the blender behind the counter too loud. This felt surreal. Like I'd fallen through a trapdoor in my own marriage and landed in a documentary no one ever made. I whispered. She told me she loved me just 3 nights ago. Monica didn't flinch. She probably did. In the only way she knows how. Which is to say, not at all. For the first time since this all began, I felt something shift inside me. The grief didn't go away, but it rearranged itself. Hardened. Grew edges. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was angry. Because I wasn't the only one she hurt. I was part of a pattern. A cycle. And now that I knew the history, the playbook, the moves before she made them, I had something she didn't. I had foresight. She'll know we talked. I said. She already suspects, Monica replied. Which is why you need to move faster than she expects. I nodded slowly. Because I wasn't going to be her blocked card. I was going to be her last mistake. I didn't go home that night. I sat in my car outside the apartment for hours, engine off, watching our living room window like it might blink. I watched her silhouette float across the curtains, occasionally pausing, phone to ear, hand on hip, probably giving someone that laugh I used to think was just for me. I didn't know whether I hated her or missed her more. Maybe both. Maybe it's the same thing when someone's lied to you long enough. The next morning, I left the house like it was any other day. Same coat. Same keys. I kissed her on the cheek. She didn't flinch. She asked if I wanted anything from the farmer's market later. I said surprise me. She already had. I didn't go to work. I called in sick. Instead, I drove to a print center 30 minutes outside the city. I had one mission. To turn the evidence I had into something physical. Tangible. Unavoidable. The screenshots. The ghost account messages. The Trello board. The hotel confirmation tied to her fake alias. Every single item was printed, collated, and stacked inside a heavy black folder that looked more like a lawsuit than a binder. Then I made 4 copies. One for me. One for Monica. One for Jonah. And one for her next target, whoever it might be. I wasn't going to stop her with emotion. I had to stop her with pattern. She thrived in shadows. I was going to flip on the lights. I started small. I logged into our shared Netflix account and changed the profile name from Elora 2 Hearts to Check Room 412. I watched from the other room as she sat down on the couch, opened the app, and froze. She didn't say anything, just stared. I waited. Nothing. I wanted to scream. Instead, I went into the kitchen and started boiling pasta. She followed 5 minutes later, acting normal, not saying a word about it. Classic Elora. Later that night, I texted her from a burner phone I bought that morning. Just one sentence. You deleted Landon. But I didn't. She dropped her wine glass. That was the first crack. Still, she didn't confront me. 2 days later, I left a printout from the Trello board tucked into her planner. Just one card. The one labeled Nathan W. I didn't say a word when she found it. I just watched her pause mid-sentence while FaceTiming her sister, her hand tightening around the leather cover. She ended the call quickly and went silent for the rest of the evening. Still, no confrontation. Elora didn't fight fire with fire. She used fog. I knew what she was doing. She was buying time, calculating. So I gave her less of it. The next move was psychological. I used another ghost account to DM Griffin, posing as someone who had questions about Elora's dating history. I said I was writing a piece about online identity fraud for a digital magazine and wanted a quote. That I'd heard rumors of someone matching her profile operating under multiple aliases. He didn't respond. But within an hour, I got a message from Elora. Just one word. Really? I replied. Tell me what happened to Landon, and I'll stop. No response. That night, she went to bed before I did, something she never did. She didn't kiss me. Didn't even say goodnight. She just pulled the covers over her head like a storm was coming. She was right. Because the next morning, I delivered the real blow. She had a meeting downtown at her firm's co-working space. I waited until she left, then slipped into her closet. At the back was a locked case she once claimed held documents from her old job. I picked the lock. Inside wasn't paperwork. It was tech. 3 old phones, all labeled with Post-its. One said Ashley. One said Valerie. One just said, work, safe. I turned them on, one by one. Only one still had a SIM card. And inside that phone was a folder titled Emergency Contact Protocol. It contained a list of men, emails, personal notes, exit strategies, what lies she'd told, which ones were still hot, which ones were fading. I copied it all, and then I did the most dangerous thing I've ever done. I took it straight to her office and left it at the front desk in a package with her name written in my handwriting. No return address, no note, just the content of her secret playbook. And while she was opening it, her assistant was watching. Her coworkers were watching. Her mask was starting to slip. She came home early that day. Her lipstick was smudged, her eyes tired. She looked at me like I was a threat for the first time in our marriage. What do you want? She asked. I smiled. You'll see, I said, because the final move hadn't come yet. But it was already in motion. And when it landed, she wouldn't just lose her game. She'd lose everything. The morning it all came crashing down, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt calm. Like that moment after a storm when the wind finally shuts up and the birds haven't started singing yet. A weird, hollow quiet. That's what I woke up to. Elora was already gone by then, probably trying to patch up whatever story she was spinning after the package incident. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. My part was over. Because this time, I hadn't acted alone. 2 weeks earlier, right after Monica handed me Landon's video, I'd made a decision. I sent the footage, the ghost accounts, the Trello board, and the entire digital history to a woman named Devin. She was Elora's manager. Or, rather, she had been. Devin wasn't just some HR middle manager. She was the company's founder. A sharp, no-nonsense professional who built the brand from her kitchen and turned it into a nationally recognized events agency. I knew she wouldn't sweep things under the rug. Especially not when the woman dragging her company's name through dating scams and burner phones was the one wearing the company lanyard. Devin replied in 5 words. This won't be ignored. Thank you. I never heard from her again. Until today. At 11:23 a.m., my phone buzzed. A screenshot came through from Jonah. It was a press release. Effective immediately, Elora Connolly is no longer affiliated with Dandelion Creative Group. We wish her well in future endeavors. Just like that, it was over. No scandal. No trial. Just a quiet erasure. The kind she had always used against others. But this time, it was turned on her. I stood in the kitchen, staring at that press release while a pot of coffee brewed beside me. And then, for the first time in what felt like months, I laughed. Not bitterly, not broken, a real laugh. Because I'd done something most people never get the chance to do. I'd escaped. She came home hours later. Her face was blank, her voice too even. She asked if I knew anything about the smear campaign happening online. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You did this to yourself." She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just said, "So this is the end?" And I said, "No, this is the beginning." I walked out of our apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and a folder under my arm. The one labeled Truth, the same one that started it all. I didn't look back. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. I moved in temporarily with my brother, helped Jonah find a therapist who wasn't part of the wreckage, and even sat with Monica over coffee again. This time, just as people, not as survivors. And then, something unexpected happened. Devin called me. She said she was launching a new mental wellness platform to support men going through emotional abuse and manipulative relationships, something few people were willing to talk about publicly. She asked if I wanted to help consult on it. She said I had perspective others could learn from. I said yes. Today, I live in a smaller place, a quieter part of town, and I make better coffee than I ever used to. I still flinch when my phone buzzes at odd hours. I still find myself checking doors twice. But I also sleep better. I laugh easier. And I'm finally starting to believe that healing isn't some cheesy Instagram quote. It's slow. It's brutal. But it's real. The last time I saw Laura was on a park bench near the river. She didn't see me. She was sitting alone, scrolling through her phone, her expression blank. No mask. No performance. Just alone. I didn't feel hatred. I didn't feel pity either. Just peace. I walked right past her, into a life that finally, truly, felt like mine again. And for the first time in a long time. That was enough.